Hey everyone, welcome back to Engelbard Gaming. What you're seeing right now is the arcade version of Mortal Kombat 2. But it's not what we're discussing today. No, today I've got the latest installment in my series, Complete Trash, where I play a bad game from start to finish, so you don't have to. This time around, I'll be covering Kasumi Ninja on the Atari Jaguar, and providing commentary while I play it. Here's just a little bit about the game and the environment in which it was released before we start. Kasumi Ninja was released for the Jaguar in December of 1994. That was just a smidge over 2 years after the arcade release of the original Mortal Kombat, and more than a year after the game you're seeing right now, Mortal Kombat 2. In fact, Kasumi Ninja came out just a few months before arcade Mortal Kombat 3. Now I'm showing you MK2 here, so you can see exactly what Kasumi Ninja was up against at the point it was released, and what it was, to use the term loosely, inspired by. A lot of people hate Kasumi Ninja. And while I am featuring it in my Complete Trash series, I have to tell you that I'm not one of them. I fully acknowledge it isn't good. It has a lot of issues and shouldn't be anyone's favorite fighting game. Apparently the devs cut a lot of corners because they were up against a super strict deadline on this one, and a lot of planned content was removed, including a much bigger 3D maze and a lot of characters. And I have a feeling if it was given just another few months to percolate, then it would have turned out better. A quick note before we begin, I am playing this on the hardest difficulty in Big PMU, and I did use a couple of save states just to make sure I could get to the end in a reasonable amount of time, as free time is at a premium for me these days. Alright, let's get on with it. Alright, here we are, Kasumi Ninja. Here's our incredible title screen. And you can tell they really kind of go overboard with the blood here. This is me setting the game to Ninja God difficulty because I couldn't remember if the ending was different in the lower difficulty levels or not. So here's a look at the different options that you've got. Take a peek at them while we listen to the music. And then it's on to the one-player story mode, which is the main single-player portion of the game. Bet you never would have guessed that from the name, huh? So we get this weird 3D maze-like place where we go to select our character, and at the beginning in the one-player story mode, you can only choose between two identical, well mostly identical, ninja characters, Habaki and Senzo. And then you get to pick the order in which you fight the enemies. And you don't have to look at their stats and info like I'm doing here, I'm just doing that so you can see all the info. And the 3D sort of maze area is really tiny, and it's only used on the character select screen. And you can see once we get into gameplay itself, Kasumi Ninja is not a bad looking game. This looks relatively comparable to the Mortal Kombat arcade games. The characters are a bit smaller, there's a bit less color and animation in general, but the backgrounds look really nice. And, I mean, the characters look good. There's no question about it. From a visual standpoint, Kasumi Ninja was more than acceptable for the point that it came out as a 2D fighting game at home in 1994. Well, almost 95, it came out in December 94. Now you're going to see a lot of me doing this here, which is just having Habaki throw fireballs at enemies, but it's not going to be the only thing you see, so stick around. I do a few fights for real, but when you're playing on this Ninja God mode, you want to make sure that you win, because you don't get any continues. There's a version of Kasumi Ninja's fatalities. They are very quick and simple. The screen doesn't change color. There is no, menacing sound that happens. There's no real voice from the announcer to let you know that you've just done something, kind of special. And here is something interesting. As you defeat characters in the one-player mode, you're allowed to pick them. This game forces you to pick your character at the start of every match in the one-player mode, which is kind of weird. It slows things down a little bit. I would have preferred, that you just had a random order and you just, fought the characters like you would in any other game. And the thing that's going to really surprise you is just how few characters there are in Kasumi Ninja, which, is going to let us get through this game really fast. My total gameplay for this is less than 15 minutes to get through the whole thing. So here's Thundra. You can see her move is kind of taken off of Raiden there for Mortal Kombat. And with her, I can't really throw the fireballs, because when you're playing on the Ninja God difficulty, she just keeps doing that torpedo attack thing that she does where she launches herself, and it goes underneath them. So her, we've got to kind of fight for real a little bit. And if you're wondering about controls on this game, let me get into that now. So you have one punch button, one kick button, and then your special move button. For the special move button, you have to hold it down and then do usually Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat-like motions in order to do something, which is kind of a pain. It means that you can't just do the moves quickly like you would, say, in something like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. So from a gameplay standpoint, it's pretty hard to incorporate special moves, and with the Jaguar controller especially, it's really difficult to pull a lot of these off. Especially like the fireball here for Hibaki, you have to hold the C button, which is the first button on the left on the Jaguar controller, and then roll a half circle from the back of the controller to the front. There we are, doing a fatality to Thundera. We have defeated her. So yeah, the controls are not great in this, and your movesets are very, very limited. And here we go. Angus, the famous Angus. Alright, so let me tell you something about myself here. I am technically a first-generation American. I am of Scottish descent. My mother is from Scotland. I have loads of relatives over there. So when I make fun of Angus for some things here, I'm allowed to because I'm Scottish, right? So no offense to anybody. And I tell you all that so I can perfectly make fun of the way he throws fireballs straight from under his kilt. Gee, what's that coming out of? Points for creativity there. It's definitely kind of funny. I do have to say, again, with these backgrounds, they actually look pretty decent. It looks like there's some, JPEG artifacts or different compression artifacts here and there on some of the things. But we've got smooth line scrolling on the floors. We've got multiple background layers. We've got a good amount of color all over the place. And they even put some animation into the backgrounds like the fishing boat on this one.
Oh, no mercy.
And one thing you're missing here is you get to miss Angus going, "Okay," when he wins, since he never won. Sorry about that. You really missed out. So back to our 3D maze, or 3D environment, whatever we want to call it. It's not really a maze. There's only a few characters left here. Here's Pakawa. Take a look at him and get his little story and bio in this. And then it's off to fight Pakawa. I really don't like this 3D environment conceit. Like I said, it would have just been better if they got rid of that altogether.
Round one.
Once again, everything looks pretty good, but the horse seems strangely faded here. And I think, I don't know, that can't be the colors that they wanted to use for that thing. It just looks kind of strange. But the rest of the background looks very good. Another thing that's hilarious in this game with the default settings is whenever you barely tap a character anywhere, blood just flies out. And you will see lots of blood all over the place during a typical Kasumi Ninja fight. You can see for your health bars at the top, the swords, more blood gets on them as you get closer to victory, and it drips onto the match, onto the floor, and it stays there for the remainder of the round. So, kind of a neat little effect, as long as you're not, annoyed by the over-saturation of blood in this game, since it does have an awful lot of it. Here we are, getting Hibaki again. Now we're going to go fight Danja. This is probably the most interesting fight in the game, with the closest thing to gameplay as intended. So you'll see a little more variety in this one than you've seen up to this point against the other characters. So here we are, a different environment. Again, I think it looks pretty nice. I really think they did a nice job with the graphics on this game. I don't think it gets nearly enough credit for that. I mean, if you look at even a lot of the other digitized fighter arcade games that were out at the time, Kasumi Ninja is smoother than almost all of them. Especially just when it comes to the background scrolling and the overall frame rate of the game. You can see it updates at a full 60 Hz here. A lot of the other games were 30 or less. So there's round one against Danja. And I like on this one, you can see the colors in the environment change a little bit for round two. So we went from straight black night to maybe even a little bit earlier in the morning or just before it got completely dark out. So we have a little variety in there too. Things like flickering street signs and a lot of nice touches. And the one thing that you don't get to see in this video is the hilarious two-player mode, which me and a friend used to play a lot. Because I've had this game since it came out. I think I got it for Christmas the year it came out when it was brand new. And for a long time, we would play this every single week. You could do things like get behind each other so your backs are facing each other, and then one of you could turn around and do an uppercut to the back of the head of the other person and just watch them land face first on the ground. It's one of those things where I didn't get to show it in the video, but it's really funny. And there's a lot of unintentional funny stuff in this. Just weird, not glitches, just reactions, you know, the sort of physics in the way the game works. I don't want to call it an actual physics engine because there's really no such thing in this. But I can't stress enough, this game is worth playing. You can have fun with it, especially when you're playing against another human. Against the computer, it's not so great, and you'll probably want to play on a lower difficulty. But, like I said, 2 players, quite a lot of fun. But here we are against Chagi, who is the last of the regular characters in here, before we face 2 boss characters. And after the interesting Danja fight, here we're right back to just chucking fireballs at his head, because if I don't do it to him, he's going to do it to me, and I'm going to go down and lose very quickly.
Round 2.
And as I mentioned earlier, in the Ninja God level here, you do not get any continues, so once you lose, that's it. When you can lose, you know, 1 round in a match, like you would expect, but if you lose the whole match, you're done. And again, you can see when you do the fatalities in this game, I mean, they're okay, they're not terrible or anything, but there's no pump, there's no circumstance, there's no glitz, no glamour. You just do them, and they happen almost like a regular move. I mean, you don't have the screen darkening or anything, you know, happening to give you an indication that this is a big deal. And I love this. Find Gyaku. We have to go find the final boss. Where could it be? I don't know. How about literally the only place to go here? And you can see, even the frame rate on this whole 3D environment is very inconsistent. When you get a lot of it in view at one time, it chugs. You know, we're talking single digits here. And here we are facing Gyaku, and hey, look at that, he's just another Habaki and Senzo clone.
Round 1.
As we fight Gyaku here, we have to win 3 of 5 rounds in order to win the match. So we'll be doing this fight a little bit longer than most of the other ones up to this point, and you'll see that it ended up going a little bit longer than it even needed to, which I'll explain in just a minute. One super important thing here, as long as you're on a high enough difficulty also, you have to make sure, at the point where you would finish him, that you do not finish him. Don't do your fatality, don't tap him with a regular move, don't do anything, or else you won't get to see the game's true final boss, and you'll just get an ending telling you that you failed to prevent the portal from opening. You don't want to fail to prevent the portal from opening, do you? I mean, how could you live with yourself after you've done something like that? So there's Gyaku's big special thing, he can reflect projectiles back at you. Doesn't use it a whole ton, though. You do have to mix things up a little bit while you're fighting him. So you'll see there are times where I might get in a jump kick or just do the low kicks to sort of push him off me a little bit.
Round 3.
And he does win a couple of rounds. I didn't feel like resetting since I ended up winning anyway. So you'll get to see some bonus extra Kasumi Ninja since I'm not resetting or reloading a state or anything since I didn't win every round. This is how it actually went down. For total save states here, I think I used 2 of them, and I used them before fights. You know, and I did the fights themselves all the way through without actually using any. Just so you know how I made this. And I will say again, I really like a lot of the elements in the background in this stage. I especially like the statues of the guy on the left side here holding the spear and the whatever that thing is in his hand. It looks kind of like a dream catcher. It looks really good. And you can just tell that the Mortal Kombat influence is just all over this thing in the way they constructed the backgrounds, the elements they used, the way they have the cloud layers just scrolling by, the way they have buildings scrolling at different speeds than other parts of the background. All of this is stuff that was a hallmark of the Mortal Kombat games, especially the first one. And you can just tell everything about Kasumi Ninja was heavily inspired by Mortal Kombat 1. Now, Mortal Kombat 2 did come out before Kasumi Ninja did, but this game was probably already pretty far along in development at the point it was released, so I don't know how much of an influence it might have actually had on it. My guess is probably not a huge impact, since they had to get this game finished. So here we go, the true final boss. The final form of Gyaku. He's a big, weird, snake-like demon guy. So here he is, and this is the one background that I feel like they actually kind of cheesed out on a little bit. You have nice half of a dead body over there, some fire effects going on, and there's a cute little terrible animation going on with the background silhouettes. Look at that, you'll see a dragon drop a guy on top of a mountain by another dragon, and then you'll see that other dragon in the background just tosses him over the edge. Wants nothing to do with him. You'd think he was going to eat him or something, but no, that's all he does. And this fight, by the way, is a lot harder than I'm making it look. If you get caught up in it, every time he stomps on the ground, if you're standing still, that's a hit, and you'll get knocked down. He's got a fireball thing that goes across the ground, a little bit of fire breath, and you can't block it. And with this game, I forgot to mention, blocking, the way it works is you just hold back a la Street Fighter, which is something I prefer over the block button in Mortal Kombat. But make no mistake, Mortal Kombat plays a lot better than this game does overall. I just wish that back blocked instead of having a separate button for it, and I always have. Time for a real quick note here. Part of the reason that Kasumi Ninja seems like it's got so little content and is so unfinished is because it was actually supposed to be quite a bit longer and have 20 characters in it, and a lot of different backgrounds, and that maze where you select your characters was supposed to be an actual maze that you had to navigate. But all this stuff was abandoned in order to get the game out on time. There's a beta where you can actually see video of some of this stuff and what it was going to be like as opposed to what we ended up with. And then once you conquer this form of Yaku, you can do your fatality, you don't have to worry about anything else. And that is it. That is the end of Kasumi Ninja. And yeah, here they give you some nice text to let you know how great you are. They don't even bother, with an ending theme. You don't have a story ending for your characters. It is just as bare bones as an ending can be, short of having like that the end or congratulations screen with nothing else. So you get those two little screens of text, and that's it. That is the end of Kasumi Ninja. Okay, so that's it. The entirety of Kasumi Ninja on the Jaguar. It's a mixed bag of pretty good visuals, humdrum sound, herky-jerky play mechanics, and weird presentation. It's still worth playing, and like I mentioned during the commentary, the two-player mode is good for a lot of laughs. They'll mostly be unintentional laughs, but laughs nonetheless. I do think this game gets a little more hate than it deserves. Lots of magazines of the era compared it to the later release of Ultra Vortec. And I have to say, I feel like Ultra Vortec is a truly terrible game and way worse than Kasumi Ninja. It's super choppy, the characters are terrible, and it's just not any fun at all to play in my opinion. I'd also take Kasumi Ninja over any digitized fighter on the 3DO, all of which are notoriously terrible. Sure, Kasumi Ninja is sort of a low-budget Mortal Kombat clone. It may be the Mortal Kombatiest of all the Mortal Kombat clones ever made. It lacks all the glitz and polish of Midway's famous series, no question about it. But I do think it's better than nearly all of the other imitators. And that statement straddles the line between, that isn't saying much, and that sure is sad, but that's where we are. Alright folks, what do you think? Did you ever play Kasumi Ninja on the Jaguar before? Did you play it on real hardware? Did you discover it years later with Big PMU? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know all about it in the comments. Oh, and if you think I forgot to include my good Captain Tennille's famous quote, well, you're wrong! That'll do it for this video, my retro gaming friends. If you enjoyed it, please like it and share it online somewhere. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss one of my videos. If you want to support the work that I do here, you can do that on Patreon or Ko-fi, or right here on YouTube through channel memberships. With that, I'll say thanks for watching, and see me later.